I'm now at a location in Bankstown Council, and what we're on here is modified Cumberland Plain woodland, where it's pretty, it is pretty heavy shale soil, and it would have been sort of an upper slope part of Cumberland Plain woodland. And again, we've got stringy barks, and as soon as I look at them, they've got a narrow sort of weeping foliage. It's just a bit more narrow than what I see for Glabaudia. And I'm just going to demonstrate this in several videos, but I have been here before, and it's one of the best stands of Eucalyptus eugenioides in the Bankstown local government area. There's plenty of fruit up there, which I'm going to just get down in a second. Nice stringy bark. Again, it's a genuine stringy. It's even hard to get off this stuff. These are probably nice old trees, I would think. Nice remnant trees. And like I said, with the Glabaudia, or in the Glabaudia video, growing straight up, they sort of go straight up. Well, look at this eugenioides. This is what I see a lot of the time. Not really going straight up. It's going sideways. And if I see that, I start to strongly suspect eugenioides or some other stringy bark. You know, it's a nice sideways one. Look, even this one, you could say it's upright, but it's sort of a bit lopsided, like the branches go out. You know, there's no hardcore reason why they couldn't be Glabaudia, but it's just the habit of the tree. It's always sort of uneven, leaning to one side. I just find Glabaudias tend to go straight up with a bit more symmetry. Not all the time, but just a lot of the time. That's the other thing about eugenioides, is they like a nice upper slope. They don't mind being on the steep country. All around New South Wales where I've seen them, they don't mind being on the steeper ground. They'll happily grow on a steep slope. And I didn't know these were here until I found them last time for the last workshop. And I just verified it with a botanist mate I've got in the Bankstown area. And he said, yeah, it's the best stand in Bankstown. So that's Henry Lawson Drive there, going up to the Meccano set. And I'll just quickly do this one and then I'll start. You can see the soil, nice and shale. We're not on those alluvial river flats anymore. We're on the high ground, coming up to the shale high ground. And this is the other thing with eugenioides a lot of the time. You can normally access the foliage. So let me get some of this and then I'll reload. Okay folks, back to it. Let's roll. I got a whole heap of specimens here for the workshop. Nice, easy collecting, which is good. I always like when a stringy bark is easy to sort of collect. I'm trying to appreciate it. I even say thank you to the tree, just a bit of ritual. Just trying to show you the fruits now. They're still developing, and I can get a bit tripped up by stringy bark fruit when they're still developing. I tried to get some old ones as well, and I'll try and pull them out of the pile I've got there. But what eugenioides is known for is the strongly pedicellate fruits. They've got a genuine stalk or pedicel on the bottom of the fruit, and I think that can get up to about 8 mil long, I think. And it's not showing as strongly as I'd like it in these eugenioides maturing ones, but you can clearly see it there. That's a good one, about the middle of the screen. I'm going to keep mucking around with the iPhone focus here. Yeah, that's all right. They're strongly pedicellate, and as you can see, they're not as clustered. They're not as strongly clustered as, definitely not as strongly clustered as Aglomerata or Capitulata, and they're not as strongly clustered as Glabaudia in the Glabaudia video. So that's what one feature of Eugenioides is, this beautiful pedicellate fruits. And they can get big as well. Well, they can get bigger than what I've got here. I've been tripped up with some collections, again in the Southern Highlands, where the sort of bowl-shaped capsules are getting very big. And I've been stumped for a moment on what tree I've actually gotten. If you get another stringy bark called Eucalyptus muelleriana, that gets bigger sort of wine glass fruits there. And they're very distinctive. And something like blackbutt, Eucalyptus pilularis, that gets even bigger, sort of cup-shaped fruits. But I find these Eugenioides can get too big for my liking, sort of too big, they become confusing, just in certain areas where you pick them up. But they're beautifully pedicellate. There's a lot of old clusters on the trees, but when I touch them with the pole saw, they just disintegrate. They just disintegrate into nothing and lose all their structure. But I wanted to show sort of some older fruit there. And I mean, even their stalks are broken off, but I like to get the stringy barks at a really good stage of maturation, so I don't get confused or tripped up. I just find they're really bloody tricky and sneaky. But just try and zoom in on another example here. I have to put my hand behind it. They're just at different stages. You're starting to get some that are stalked and some that are going stalked. But hopefully we can see they're not as clustered as the Gleboidia. You can see how putting a stalk on the base of the fruit allows them to be more spaced out. And you can sort of move them around within each other. They've got a good bit of space in there. Now the other cool thing is the leaves, which is what people will talk about, have a really thin, papery texture. Now again, it's never consistent enough for my liking. Let me zoom out a bit here. But these are sort of on the thin side. They are going papery thin. Again, you've got to check multiple samples. If I get that and just run my hands through it, yeah, you wouldn't call those thick textured leaves, especially not like Capitulata or even the Agglomerata yesterday or the Gleboidia this morning. They're sort of got a papery texture. What I see in Eugenioides is they're narrow. They can be on the narrow side with those really strong uneven bases. And to me, they're just more of a narrow, attenuate leaf, lanceolate, a bit longer and thinner. And when I look up at the canopy, I tend to think it's really noticeable. It's just this thinner, sort of weeping canopy where I find Gleboidia tend to have them a bit more horizontal and a bit fatter and shorter. But these guys are really on the thin side. So I always go for that with Eugenioides. Just the thin leaves, uneven, sometimes really strongly uneven. And again, it's hard to ID them on the papery feel alone. And like even these guys, they're not as papery as I'd like, but they are getting there. And because they're papery, they can make a bit of a more rustly sound when you brush them through. But just those leaves there, they're getting much longer than what you generally see in Gleboidia. So that's really good. Happy with this collection. I've got some buds. The buds aren't really mature and they do get a lot bigger than this, but that's how stringy bark buds start out. They should be in clusters of 7 to 15. Normally they're more than 7. There's one there that's probably 8. I think these guys are just starting out. They're just getting going. I've definitely seen Eugenioides with bigger buds than this once they're mature. But that's how they start out, nice yellow colour. These aren't really good, reliable bud specimens at the moment. But if you put all that evidence together, the habitat, we got a really strong shale soil, We are on the high ground. We're moving towards sort of the high point in the landscape. Got these big rolling hills at this parkland. There are some hills further over that way which you can sort of run down for 100 metres. They go down pretty steeply. And like I said, Eugenioides will like it on this higher ground. They don't mind getting up on the higher slopes. It's a really strong shale soil. In some parts it's really, it's like concrete clay. And like I said, just remember the habit. You know, they love to do that sort of thing. They love to lean over. Like, look how lopsided that tree is. I just find this for Eugenioides. Maybe not all the time. Maybe not when they're growing on maybe farmland, upper creek lines. But they'll just be an uneven tree all over one side, or just not symmetrical. Just watch for that too. So, win-win. Got some beautiful material for the students tomorrow to have a look at. And that's Eucalyptus eugenioides. They can get big. They can become a big tree. They're not very big here. They're only getting up to about 15, 16, 18 metres. You know, you can get some that are 30 metres. And nice big old trees I've seen on cleared farm paddocks. They like to bring their foliage down to the ground. So I don't really see Gleboidia doing that much. Gleboidia, the foliage is well and truly up. Like even this branch of this Eugenioides is happily going out, and it's even starting to come down, to weep down. So some trees, they like to put their foliage down towards the ground on these really curvy, sort of sagging down branches, if you can get a big old tree. So that's Eucalyptus eugenioides. Alrighty.